Welcome back, Knuckleheads. I am Lupine Fiasco, and this is Daily FaB Gameplay. For anyone who's new to the channel, welcome to the jungle. What we do here is review replays of games that I played on the Talishar client days or weeks ago, after enough time has passed, that I lose my bias and can more objectively judge the quality of my play. I will talk through turn cycles and give my thoughts on the line I would take now, compared to the line I took then at the time of recording. We either reinforce good play patterns or identify areas for improvement for the purpose of tightening and improving our gameplay in the future to take down paper events like the upcoming Skirmish and ProQuest season, and, most importantly, walk away with that shiny cardboard. If you'd like to check out the list I'm playing here or try it for yourself on Talishar, there is a FaB deck link in the video description below. While you're down there, if you haven't already done so, please consider a YouTube subscription. It is the best free way to support me and to make sure that you see daily FaB gameplay in your video feed 5 days a week. The best paid way to support me is through Patreon, and a Patreon link is also in the video description. A Patreon subscription will get you access to the DFG Discord and the shiny cardboard Talishar card back. At higher tiers, your name will appear in every DFG video, and you could receive bonus DFG content every week. Daily FaB gameplay will always be free 5 days a week, so those who can afford to patronize me, I truly appreciate it. I also now am on X, and if you would like to see memes, inane comments, and the occasional self-promotion, head on over to X and follow Lupine Fiasco. Now, without further ado, let's talk about our sideboard and about our game plan. Against -IO, we are going to pivot away from our usual strategy of going second in an aggro mirror and choose to go first. The reason being that Dio stacks her deck with items which don't block. So if we go first, we have the opportunity to potentially push some damage on turn 0, but more than that, even if she is able to put blocks together, we are trying to take cards out of her hand that cannot pitch to play items off the top of her deck. Alternatively, we just pass the turn, and if she plays items off the top of the deck, then we get priority back and can attack once she has reduced her hand size, or the best case scenario if we pass the turn would be that she has a handful of items but can't pitch them to play off the top of her deck, giving her a pretty awkward first turn. Our sideboard plan here has us boarding out Bear Fangs, and we are boarding in the weakest link. There are two advantages to this. The first being that weakest link has an actual effect against -IO. None of her items have block value, so if we can catch her with defenses down, when we hit with the weakest link, we can take an item out of her hand. The other reason we would want to play weakest link is it has a block value, and Dio goes fast, she presents a lot of damage, and we may find ourselves needing to block. Outside of that, we are just racing. We need to go fast. Dash has a million power cards in her deck. She is going to be able to put these massive high octane or maximum velocity turns together, and we need to try to pressure her off of being able to do that. We need to get her life total down quickly so that she is forced to block with cards from hand. Our opening hand here, we should just pass the turn. I remember it not occurring to me that I could just pass and try to catch Dash with just a handful of items, but we should just pass this turn, arsenal a Wild Ride, and on our next turn look to Wild Ride, Mandible Claw, either CNC or Bear Fangs, and just push a lot of damage. What I am going to do instead is send the Wild Ride, which at least lets us make a might. We are doing a damage check on Dash to make sure that she has blocking cards in hand. And you can see why we might have wanted to just pass the turn, as Dash blocks with 2 blue, so she just gets to filter cards out of the hand. So absolutely a mistake to not just pass the turn here. And if Dash wanted to play items off the top, then we can consider whether we want to convert this hand into offense. At this point, since we are now in the heat of things, I would say let's still just pass the turn. We've made a might. We arsenal Bear Fangs. Having Beast Within is worse than having a blue that could have paid for a Wild Ride and let us play a Command and Conquer or Bear Fangs, but let's not let Dash filter anymore. I think we should just pass the turn, and if we were going to attack, we should attack with Bear Fangs so that we are pressuring Dash to not just be able to play items off the top of the deck. Either way, we're in a bad spot. So if we attack with Mandible Claw and Dash blocks, she can use the remaining card in her hand to play an item off the top of the deck and draw up to 4 on her turn. If we attack with Bear Fangs, we are pushing some damage, but we aren't giving ourselves an arsenal. Really, this whole first turn was just played poorly, and it is a stroke of luck that Dash has to give us a Spark of Genius, one of her power cards, in order to block out that Mandible Claw. And she does not play an item off the top. Now here she's playing one off the top on her turn, getting a Teklo Core out for just one resource and playing High Octane. Got a T-Bone coming in for 2. We are going to block this with Savage Sash because we have to. And it is a good use of the first half of our Savage Sash. Got a Pulse Wave Harpoon coming in. I would like to show Dash a Pulping and a Smash Instinct, or an Assault and Battery. Basically a blue and a Pulping, because I'm going to play the Pulping and pitch a blue. And by showing her the first 2 cards that I'm going to use on my turn, I'm not giving her any additional information. And this is a small mistake, because she would not necessarily know that we have 2 blues when we pitch one to play a Pulping. In either case, Dash doesn't get to take a card from us because she's only boosted twice, so there is no downside to showing her a Pulping. Here, Dash just has additional information about our hand. She's now lost that information because we discarded the second blue that she saw, but still just a small spot where we can tighten up that gameplay. Drawing into an E-Strike here doesn't give us a particularly inspired turn. We could play Bear Fangs by pitching E-Strike and just hope that we discard Beast Within. We don't have an action point following the Bear Fangs, so it isn't like we get to send a third Chain Link this turn. It does give us some Arsenal selection, but Bear Fangs in Arsenal is just good, and I'm not really interested in taking extra damage against Dash IO. I am just going to E-Strike for 7. We have a floating resource at the end of the turn, but unfortunately, based on how our draw discard went, we have no way to use that resource. Teklo Core pops. We are looking at a 0 to 60. We don't need to block this. The hand that I have drawn into makes me want to discard Agile Windup at the end of Dash's turn to make an agility, and on my turn, I play Blood Rush, pitch a blue, discard a blue, and draw 2 new cards, and now I can potentially sash, but I get to open my turn with Bear Fangs from Arsenal with Go Again. What is interesting, though, is that we might want to think about blocking with our Scabskin Leathers. Maybe our Bone Breaker, but really just armor, and the reason to do that is blue T-Bone says that it attacks for 1, and we have to block with equipment. We are not going to block with our sash, so if we get blue T-boned, we have to block with a 2-block piece of armor, and we lose value based on that. So if we block the 0 to 60 with our Scabskin Leathers, we get our 2 points of value. Scabs now has 1 point of block remaining to cover that T-bone, but it also covers any additional T-bones after that, unless Dash has a multiple blue T-bone turn. We are never losing block value on our armor. The downside of doing that, of course, is Boom Grenade, which demands exact blocks unless we want to take bonus damage. So there's an upside and a downside. It did not occur to me in this game that I could block with Scabskins here, just to make sure I don't get punished by T-Bone later. But I think it is worth thinking about. Blue T-Bone is a card that every Dash is going to play, because at its worst, it's a blue block 3. and at its best, it forces you to give equipment. The existence of Zen means that all mechanologists are incentivized to play T-Bone. We're looking at a situation where Dash could very easily maximum velocity this turn. 3 cards remaining in hand, 1 resource floating. She has boosted twice this turn. If we were to flesh bag this zipper hit, we take a card out of her hand and we put her on exactly having 0 to 60, any 0 cost boost, and a max V. But if we leave her with anything else, max V and a 1 cost boost, then she cannot play max V this turn. And what is interesting about her using Crown last turn to not cycle the arsenal makes me think that she might be looking to max V or Pulse Wave Harpoon, something where whatever the card in Arsenal was good, and she just needed to fix her hand. So it does make me think that flesh bagging here might be okay. We take 3 damage. We have already taken damage this turn, but knowing that we want to turn one of our cards into agility and then use the other 3 to play Blood Rush, and Dash being at 24, it's not the worst thing in the world for us to flesh bag here. It just buys us time and potentially interrupts whatever Dash is trying to do with her perfectly sculpted hand. Yellow Zephyr hit. Again, we don't need to block this for damage. We just might want to block it with Scab Skin to prevent blowouts from Blue T-Bone. But Dash does just end the turn, so this flesh bag actually did give Dash an intellect penalty. And we'll pay attention on our next turn to know, well, was that because she had a max V? Did we interrupt a max V turn? Agility might. We draw 2 Wild Rides. We have 2 resources floating. This seems like a great time to break Savage Sash. If we don't break Sash here and we open with Bear Fangs, there's a chance that we discard our yellow yellow Wild Ride and replace it with a red, at which point we pitch 2 reds to attack with Mandible Claw, which is very bad. But if we break Sash, we play Bear Fangs, it is extremely likely that we get to Claw Wild Ride, or at minimum Wild Ride Arsenal. So we do draw the blue. Unfortunately, we discard our red Wild Ride and keep our yellow Wild Ride, so we are going to miss a point of damage from that. But we do get to send 3 Chain Links, and we are presenting a total of 22 damage, which is good. You know, I like doing that. Putting Dash down to 2, effectively she is at 5 currently. Here we have that blue T-Bone, which is going to extract additional value from us. This could have gone the other way. It could have been a Boom Grenade that we were able to block out entirely. I do just think at minimum it's worth considering blocking with your Scab Skins early to make sure that you have something that can soak up those T-Bone hits for maximum value. Dash had that Tome of Fiendal in Arsenal, and now breaking the Achilles Accelerator to get the action point back. Hard to know if we really impacted her turn all that much by flesh bagging a card away. It's entirely possible that she was just going to play a T-Bone, and we intimidated that T-Bone, but it seems unlikely if she had already played 2 boost attacks, that she was going to tome on her previous turn. So that flashback probably wasn't worth it, but I think it was reasonable to play around maximum velocity. Here we've got a red T-Bone. We are just going to block this with leathers, and now our leathers is the card we will use for all future T-Bones. Dash going up to 7 here is extremely bad for us. I should have addressed that. That is the main benefit of a Tome of Fiendal from Arsenal. It isn't so much the card draw, it is the life gain that is just tragic for us. The hand that we draw into is pretty fine, honestly. We have lines here where we can Blood Rush if we want to, by pitching Send Packing, but that doesn't seem very good. What I'm more likely to do is E-Strike for 6 go again, Command and Conquer. Dash has already given us Crown of Providence, so she doesn't have an easy way to save the arsenal from a CNC. But more than that, we are presenting lethal damage with that line. So I don't want to block any of this. Unless I absolutely have to. And we are unlucky enough that Dash spikes a Boom Grenade off the top of the deck, leading into a maximum velocity. She does crank the Boom Grenade, so we know that if we survive this turn, the Boom Grenade dies at the beginning of Dash's next turn. So blocking out the maximum velocity becomes a lot more interesting. It just is unfortunate that this Max V is lethal rather than just threatening 10, because if it was threatening 10, we could put our Bone Breaker in front of it, take 8, go to 3. We would also then survive Dash's follow-up Symbiosis shot for 2, go to 1, and then have this 4-card hand to play with. It would still be an interesting 4-card hand if Boom Grenade blows up. Dash is at an effective 10, and we're only pushing 12 on our turn. CNC is not threatening an arsenal, so maybe it still would be correct to put more cards in front of the maximum velocity, but we would at least have more of a choice of how we wanted to use this hand. Currently, this maximum velocity is threatening 14 damage, which obviously kills us. We have a Blood Rush. I believe it is correct to just prevent the Boom Grenade damage, knowing that it will die at the beginning of Dash's next turn. I want to block this Max V with Bone Breaker, CNC, E-Strike, Send Packing. We generate a Might, which we then lose because we're going to Arsenal a Blood Rush rather than pitch it to Mandible Claw, but we will stay alive at 9 damage, 9 health, effectively 10 with the back half of Bone Breaker. Dash has 4 cards. It's very possible that she uses 4 cards to just kill us, but if she doesn't, then we get to Blood Rush Bella. I think arsenaling the Blood Rush is better than just clawing for 5. Dash gets a blue Boom Grenade off the top, not the worst thing that could happen to us, followed up by blue 0 to 60. We will just take 4 here. Dash has 2 cards left in hand. It is unlikely to me that we would be able to not get hit by the Boom Grenade and still be able to put a turn together. We need to keep 2 cards if we wanted to swing big. We've got a Pulse Wave Harpoon threatening us for 4. We have to show Dash 2 cards. We will want to show her cards that we are intending to use on our turn. I believe those 2 cards should be Pack Call and Wrecker Romp, and then block the Pulse Wave Harpoon with Wrecker Romp and Bone Breaker. We stay alive at 5. Dash has an action point remaining that she can put into Pistol Shot to take us to 3. And then depending on what this last card in her hand is, maybe we have to give her a second card, but if we can keep 3 cards, we have a really good Blood Rush. And by keeping a blue, we pitch a blue, we play Blood Rush, we either discard Swing Big or Pack Hunt. Either one of those is really good. Show Dash a red here instead, and I know that I am going to block with a Pack Hunt. This is 100% a mistake. We should be giving Dash a blue instead of a red, and Wrecker Romp makes that Might either way. Because if we play Blood Rush, we pitch Wrecker Romp, say we discard Swing Big and draw 2 more blues, now we just don't have a red to use on our turn, which is pretty actively bad. Dash plays Teclocore from hand, shoots us for 2, we will go to 3. We're going to play this Blood Rush, we're going to pitch Wrecker Romp, we're going to hope that we keep Swing Big and we discard it. And now we can see, well, if this Pack Call was a Pack Hunt, then we have a pretty interesting turn that we can put together. We could attack with Mandible Claw for 6, Dash probably takes it, goes down to 1, and then we get to Pack Hunt for 8, Intimidate. Dash possibly still survives it, but what we could do instead, if we had the Pack Hunt, is play Pulping, Pulping attacks for 9, go again, dominate. Dash gives us card from hand, Foundry Heart, and probably Galvanized Plating. To block for 8 takes 1 down to 6. Then we could either E-Strike for 7, get another card out of Dash, or we Pack Hunt, intimidate a card away, and threaten 8 on Dash, which still gets a card from her and potentially, in a best case scenario, leaves her with non-blocks. So having a blue Pack Call rather than a red Pack Hunt, actively detrimental to us. At this point, we have a pretty interesting choice if we want to Mandible Claw Pulping, which threatens 14 damage with Dominate on the back half with Pulping, or we lead with Pulping, hope to discard, well, depends on what we draw. Best case, we either E-Strike for 7, or we play a 2 for 6 Brute card by pitching Pack Call. I think we should lead with the Pulping. I'm not going to. I'm going to lead with Mandible Claw for 6. Dash is going to take it, and then we can attack with Pulping for 8. The problem with attacking for 8 is that Dash can cover it with 3 block from hand, Teklo Foundry Heart, and a Galvanized Adaptive Plating. If Dash was at 1 less point of life, or if Pulping was attacking for 1 more point of damage, I would say that line is correct, but because Claw Pulping doesn't kill Dash, I want to lead with Pulping instead so that I can push slightly more damage with E-Strike for 7 rather than Claw for 5. So this is a mistake. We should be leading with Pulping here because the gotcha of Pulping for Dominate doesn't actually kill Dash. Draw, discard, swing big, doesn't matter. We are just going to Arsenal E-Strike, but we can even see, well, if we had drawn the swing big, if we discard E-Strike, then we get to swing big for 10, and this is an 18 card turn rather than, this is an 18 point turn rather than 14 points. Or we E-Strike, and this is a 16 point turn rather than 14. So we missed damage because we didn't lead with the Pulping, and that is a mistake. We needed to lead with the Pulping there. The Pulping was not a gotcha. The Pulping is a gotcha if Dash has 1 less point of life to give. But unfortunately, because she was at 1, she could cover 8, and we just couldn't quite get there. So now we're in a situation where we just need to survive. So we get to block with 2 3 blocks and a 2 block. We are hoping that Dash lets us keep a card. If we could Agile Windup here, then we get to E-Strike for 6, go again, Claw, which takes 3 cards out of Dash's hand. She is going to Spark. We are hoping that the card she draws is not one that she can play. She does get to play blue 0 to 60. Thankfully, we can cover this with a 2 block. If this had even 1 more point of damage, we would just die. Here we can take the pistol shot, go to 1, and we're going to E-Strike for 8. E-Strike for 8 does take 3 cards out of Dash's hand. She loses the Boom Grenade. We're just hoping that somehow the last card in her hand is Throttle or Zipper Hit, something that costs 1. So we can block with a single card and keep 3. It is T-Bone, so we can give 1 card to block the T-Bone and 1 card to block the pistol. Problem is that we have 4 reds. So our best follow-up to this is just pitch 2 reds for Mandible Claw, and that is going to kill us. Mandible Claw for 5 gets 2 cards out of Dash's hand maximum, and we are just very likely dead to Dash's 2-card follow-up. We see a blue on top of the deck, which makes us feel absolutely terrible. If we could Weakest Link for 8 or Swing Big for 10, we win the game here. As it is, Dash gets to cover our Mandible Claw with armor and 2 tomes, and we can block out the 0 to 60, we can block out the follow-up, but yeah, we'll block this Data Link for 1 and then get shot by Pistol and block that, and then Dash gets a 4-card hand and kills us. I should probably play this out in some weird world where Dash fatigues. Admittedly, I was a little frustrated at this point. The all-red hand just absolutely infuriating at the time. The all-red hand followed by the all-blue hand, just, terrible. But I should have considered the possibility of fatiguing Dash. At that point in the game, perhaps the only thing left in her deck is blues, and if she draws an item in there and can't convert 4 cards to 5 chain links, then maybe we can't just fatigue her. But sort of a brutal game. Good to watch it back, though, and see that the pulping line really cost us that win, that we missed a couple points of damage because we didn't lead with the pulping, and we should have, that the pulping was not lethal the way I thought it would be, and that probably cost us the game. We lost a point of value by blocking a blue T-bone with the scab skins, and that's something I want to consider too. That we block with the sash because of course we're going to. We want to get our 2 before we use the sash. But blocking with the leathers is good to make sure that blue T-bone doesn't get value on you. And it feels like such a weird thing to say. Your Mechanologist is running at least 60 cards. They only have 3 blue T-bones in their deck. But I do think that you will see blue T-bone enough of the time that it's at least worth considering. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something from the game. If so, be sure to take that like button to Pound Town. My comments are always open for any questions or feedback. If you haven't already done so, please consider a YouTube subscription. It's free. It helps me out a lot. I have a Patreon. I have a Twitter. Those socials are in the video description below. And until the next time I see you on Daily FaB Gameplay, take care.